Hey, so today we will be looking at the common lit that you have to complete for this week, and it's a soliloquy or monologue or something that somebody says by themselves when they're alone from Hamlet. Okay? To Be or Not to Be by William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was an English poet, playwright, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in English language and the world's preeminent dramatist. Hamlet is one of Shakespeare's most famous tragedies. The play dramatizes the revenge Prince Hamlet is instructed to enact on his uncle Claudius, who murdered Hamlet's father. In this soliloquy from Act 3, Scene 1, a despondent Prince Hamlet contemplates death and suicide while waiting for Ophelia, his love interest. As you read, make notes about the way Shakespeare describes life and death. All right, so as we read, I've broken everything down and I've made myself notes because that's the way I process things. So I have to label things and write things down in order to understand what's going on. And that helps me whenever I get to the end to the assessment questions. I can go back and I've already kind of thought through all of the stuff and put it over here on the side. All right, so Hamlet's all alone. He's supposed to kill his uncle Claudius, who murdered his father, and he's deciding what to do about his own life. Okay, so he says, "To be or not to be? That is the question." So right here, he is asking himself to live or to die. He's contemplating what he should do. I don't know. Okay, yeah, he's contemplating what he should do, whether or not he should stay alive or he should kill himself. Okay, so whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. All right, so nobler. Is it nobler to suffer? Is it more respectful to suffer through life's pains and misfortunes, or to take up arms or fight against life's pain by choosing to end it all? Okay, so is it nobler to suffer through outrageous fortune? Fortune is like what you get, okay, so what life gives you, or to take arms against it, and by taking arms against it, you fight life and the pain that it causes you by killing yourself? That's the question that he asks. All right. So right here it says for the Q1, Hamlet is thinking about what? And you have to decide what you feel like Hamlet is thinking about. I kind of told you, but you pick the answer for that. All right. Right here it says to die, to sleep. Death is being compared to sleep. You've heard people say like the long sleep, or they're going to sleep forever now, or they can sleep peacefully. You know, to die is to sleep, he says. No more. And by a sleep, to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. First of all, you have to think about, what does heir mean? Okay, so if you get an inheritance, which is part of the same word, that means that you receive something from someone, maybe you're kin to them, and you receive something whenever they die. If you are heir to something, then that means that you are like the next in line to receive something, whether it be like you're the heir to the throne, or you're the heir to the company. Then that means that you're going to receive it when somebody else dies. So when he says it here, though, it says the heartache, which is life and pain and suffering that happens in life, that flesh is heir to. So we know as flesh, as humans, that we're going to receive heartache. That's what that's saying. And so the question is, through death, we could end the suffering that we know that's going to happen because we're human, and that's what humans do, is they go through struggles. All right. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. Well, consummation means like an end to something. And this is saying this is an end that, I wish for, that a lot of people wish for. To end all the suffering is what he wishes for with his whole heart. All right. Again, he compares to die to sleep. Okay. So death is again compared to sleep. And then it says to sleep, perchance to dream. All right, so in this part right here, the afterlife, like what happens when you're asleep, what happens after you die, he compares that to dreams. To sleep, perchance to dream. So maybe in the afterlife we're going to dream. We don't know. And that's what he says. He says, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have suffered off this mortal coil, it must give us pause. All right. So when you rub somebody wrong, it means that you've insulted them. All right. And in this situation, it's saying this is the part that we get hung up on. The reason that we pause when we think about contemplating suicide is that we don't know what's going to happen after. All right. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil. So when we've left the earth, what happens after makes us pause. It makes us question what we're going to do. All right. Then he talks about life. He says, there's a respect that makes calamity of so long a life. So long a life that has dealt with a lot of misfortunes or disasters is considered respectful. Somebody that has been through a whole lot of struggles in their life, we usually say, I really respect him. He's came through all of these things, or she's came through all these things, and she's made it out to the other side. She's, not gave in to all of the things that she's had to go through. So that's what he says there. He's like, well, you know what? People that have gone through struggles in life, we do respect them. So maybe I want to be respected. And then he questions who would deal with life if they had the choice. And he says, for who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes? Why would we deal with all these things? For who would bear all these things, that the struggles and the trials that we deal with in life, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin? Well, what does that really mean? It means, why would we deal with all these things when a person could take it into their own hands and kill themselves with a knife or a dagger? Okay. So I think I've missed a couple. So on the Q2, you got to answer, what does Hamlet believe about death? Okay. So he says here, 'tis a consummation devoutly to be wished, which means death. To end all suffering is the ending that he wishes for with his whole heart. So you have to decide what the right answer is there. And then this one says, which of the following phrases best summarizes how Hamlet describes life? Well, the way he describes life are these things right here in green, from the whips and scorns of time down to the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes. All right. So then in pink here, who would fardels bear? Fardels are like burdens or struggles. Who would fardels bear to brunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of? All right, what does he say in here? Okay, so he said this is burdens. So who would bear these burdens, the burdens of life, except that the problem is that we don't know the dread of something afterlife, the undiscovered country. The only reason that we deal with pain and suffering of life is because we don't know what comes after death. The fear of the unknown, this undiscovered country, keeps us dealing with the struggles that we do know that occur in life, because it's like the what's the phrase, the beast that we know versus the one that we don't. Or another thing that happens here is right here, this undiscovered country. He compares the afterlife to an undiscovered country, like something that hasn't been found yet or discovered. Okay, so thus conscience does make cowards of us all. All right, so the voice inside of our head, that's our conscience, right? So that's what tells us what we should do, what we shouldn't do, and most of the time we listen to it. Sometimes we don't. But that voice inside our head, us knowing that the afterlife is unknown, makes us too afraid to carry out the actions of suicide. It makes us cowards. And he considers being a coward to not follow through with suicide. So, and thus, but then that's what he feels here, because up here he talks about, like, is it nobler to deal with the sufferings of life versus killing yourself and ending it all? And he's not really sure, but here he says that not committing suicide makes us cowards. And thus the native hue of resolution is sickled over with the pale cast of thought. This part right here really means, sorry, it means our resolve to commit suicide, or our resolution, is destroyed because of our thoughts and our fears of what we don't know. So it keeps us from acting. An enterprise of great pitch and moment, with disregard, their currents turn awry and lose the name of action. So we don't go through with it. And then he pauses. Whenever you see Shakespeare's plays and it says soft, like in Romeo, it says, but soft to yonder window breaks. And it basically means, like, here comes somebody, or wait, I hear somebody, or I see somebody. It says, soft you now, the fair Ophelia. So she has came up into the room. And it says, he calls her a nymph. So, and a nymph is basically like a beautiful creature. He says, the fair Ophelia, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered. Okay, orisons mean prayers. And so what is he asking her? He's saying, Ophelia, will you please remember me in prayer and pray for all of my sins and my transgressions? So if he's asking her to pray for him and for his sins, then you know that in the end he has decided not to commit suicide. All right, so I got you 3. And then this one, what does he decide? And you know the answer to that. All right, so in the assessment questions, the first one says, which of the following best states a theme of the soliloquy? All right, so overall, what has been talked about? What is he struggling with? What are the things that he's choosing between, and why? Okay, like, why is it hard for him to decide? So you pick which one fits that best. And remember that because there's a part A, whatever theme you decide, you have to find which evidence from the text states it best. Okay, so be very careful in your picking of part A. And think about all the way through how he goes back and forth and what his decisions are and why. Okay, when you pick right through here. All right, and then for this one, you find which one fits it best. And please remember that if you click on these lines, it will take you to those lines. You can't see it really well because I've colored everything in so much, but right here it'll show you the highlighted. It's lines 5 through 9, and on your screen it'll highlight those lines, so you can read that and read around it and decide if that really fits the theme, or the next one, which is down here, okay, and so on. So you pick which one really says what you put in part A. All right, and then for number 3, how does he use figurative language to talk about death? Well, up here, I told you, it says to die, to sleep. And then again, he says to die, to sleep. All right, now the question's asking you just about death, so make sure you pay attention to that. Your answer should be just about death. All right, so whatever you choose here, now you need to find 2 quotes that fit that best. Okay, so there will be 2 quotes that explain the figurative language that he uses to talk about death. All right, to die, to sleep, and by sleep we say, okay, and then to die, to sleep, and then this part it says to sleep, perchance to dream, for in that sleep of death what dreams may come. So use those to pick number 3, and then in this part, all right, and then the last one that you have to do, I can't remember if you guys have this one or not. I don't think that you do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you don't. I think you just have 1 through 4. So don't worry about that one. My 10th graders had it, so that's why I needed to make sure you didn't. So I hope that helped you understand what the poem is about, or the soliloquy. And let me know if you have any questions. Please watch through this and even rewind if you need to before you answer those questions. Good luck.